Hi guys, welcome back to another video. So today I'm on my mountain bike trying to take down some KOM Strava segments. So there's 4 segments today. The first one is a pretty short one, it's only 2 kilometers long. I'm currently sitting at 11th and I want to try and get myself into the top 10. My current time is 4:34 and to get into the top 10 I need to do a 4:31, so I need to shave off about 4 seconds to be able to get into the top 10. So to start the segment, it's just approaching now. Just need to cross over this road onto this dirt track here. All of these segments are off-road, so it's not just about pure power. You actually need to think about your line choices and stuff like that. So just waiting for it to start. Just keep an eye on the timer at the top. So just starting now. As you can see from the top, the elevation is pretty interesting. The first half is quite a shallow ascent, and then there's a really steep descent, and then the last half is just flat. So my strategy here is to just try and keep the power on during the first half, and then during the second half just try and hold on through the descent and the flat bit. So as you can see, it's pretty rough, this surface. It's not nice at all for riding. So the strategy here is to stick to the paths that have the lowest amount of grass, because obviously if you're riding through the high grass, it's just going to suck your momentum away. You're going to have to work through all of that, so it's not efficient at all. As you can see from this little number here, that's the headwind, and I have a 16 km/h headwind, which is pretty intense actually. So not the best day to be trying this segment. I really wished it was a negative headwind instead. About halfway up the steep bit now, my heart rate is still really high. 180 is way higher than I would have liked, but this is the bit where you can gain most time because it's just uphill, and this is where, you know, the weaker riders will suffer. Keeping it at about 22, 23 kilometers an hour, I know the average will go up when I get to the downhill section, so I'm not too worried at the moment. So a quick mention about the bike I'm on. This is a Vitus Rapide CRS. It's a cross-country bike with no back suspension, only suspension on the front, so it should be pretty good for this sort of thing. Very good for slight bumps and just trying to keep the speed up. Alright, we're almost to the top of this hill here. It's not actually that steep, about 2 or 3%, but it's just the bumps just keep taking your momentum from you. Heart rate 181, I'm really pushing at this point, and now it gets really bumpy here, so I've got to make sure that I stick to the right lines because there's some really big holes there. Okay, almost at the top, so just trying to keep the power on. Heart rate 182, and I am actually really struggling at this point. Just trying to keep the speed above 20 kilometers an hour because that is a nice number. Right, here we are going into this little path here. This is the downhill bit and it gets really steep. So freewheeling all the way down here, trying to keep my speed up as much as possible. Speed goes up to about 35 kilometers an hour and then goes down again. I don't know what's going on there. And back out into the open. So now this bit is really difficult because you've got to make sure you're on the good lines and making sure not to cut the corners and slide off because it is actually quite a wet day. It's not perfectly dry, even though it might look like it. It rained the night before, so there was a bit of dew on the ground. So now it's another choice here. Do I take the grassy line or do I cut across a bit into this field on the left and try to stick there? So I make the choice to stay on the grass. Actually no, it seems I go onto the field. This bit must be a bit harder. The ground here must be a bit harder, so that's probably why I did that. It does look a bit nicer than the grass anyway. So at the moment, keeping the speed about 25 kilometers an hour. Still a slight downhill segment here, so I'm trying to keep the power on. Heart rate is still the same. It did dip during the downhill bit, but not too much. Now I've moved over to the grassy section because the field was getting a bit too bumpy, but you can see how bumpy it is. I'm just jumping around all the time here. Right, now we're off this section here, cutting into the field. In a little while there'll be a road, so I just need to make sure I manage to keep the speed up here. You can see the grass gets a lot longer here, so it's even more important to pick the right line. Speed is still around 20 kilometers an hour, which is okay for this. I know there's a road coming up, so that's where I can gain some more time, hopefully. So just making sure I keep the power down until I get to that. So there's a few bumps here, so just making sure I keep it smooth, don't hit the sting nettles on the side. And now we are approaching the road. So this is the important part. It's the last minute or so, so I just need to get on the tarmac and keep the power down. Let's see how much my speed increases at this point. I was doing about 20 kilometers an hour on the grass. Let's see if I can get that up close to 30. So my heart rate is still around 180. It means I'm really pushing myself at this point. I've got about 40 seconds to go, trying to get low and aero, as low and aero as you can get on a mountain bike anyway. The time I was aiming for was 4:31, so about 30 seconds to get there from this point. So let's see if I can do it. It is just a smooth road from here to the end, a slight uphill gradient, but not too bad. The headwind has increased, it's now 21 kilometers an hour, so it's not ideal for keeping up speed, but 20 seconds to go. Let's see if I can do it. So close, so close. So just rolling across the line now, I managed to get a time of 4 minutes and 29 seconds. So shaving 4 seconds off my previous time. That was a pretty tough effort, especially with the headwind, so I was pretty happy with that one. All right, let's get to the next segment. Making my way to the next section was actually horrible. There's so many sting nettles, the route was proper overgrown. Not only that, there was also a field which had just been ploughed, which I had to cycle through. So yeah, not ideal at all. Anyway, I made it to the start of the next one, so let's see how that one went. Just making sure the bike is in good condition before starting this one. Sometimes I get loads of grass and stuff stuck in the derailleurs, so just cleaning that out before we start. Right, here we go for the start of the next one. You can see the elevation gain is pretty similar to the last one, a big uphill and then a downhill and then a flat, but it's a bit shorter this one. It's only about 1.5 kilometers instead of 2. So this time I want to achieve the top 10 again, so I need to shave 8 seconds off. My current time is 3:17 and I want to get a 3:09. So let's begin. All right, so my heart rate is already high before we even start. I want to get some speed up before the timer starts, which is just now. So yeah, let's just power through this uphill and see how I do. So it's pretty similar to the last one, just making sure I stay to this nice smooth section in between all the grass here. It's quite difficult to do, you've just got to make sure you're paying attention all the time, but hopefully this one shouldn't be too bad. The headwind is still facing me and is pushing me back, 18 kilometers an hour there, gradient 3%, heart rate 175. So this one is a bit more technical than the last one. Once you get to the top of the hill, there's a sharp right-hand corner and then there's a steep downhill and then a sharp left-hand corner. So trying to keep speed up during those is quite a challenge as well, something I'm not too good at actually. So it took me about 10 minutes to get from the end of the previous section to the start of this one, so I've had a bit of a chance for a rest, but it's not too long because I was actually still pedaling during that time. Alright, so about halfway up this hill, keeping the speed about 18 kilometers an hour. It's not too quick, but I'm trying to save something for the end. Just crossing over here to the left, this bit might be a bit flatter, I'm not sure. Just trying to avoid all the bumps and all the grass. Heart rate just crossed over to 180 again, so you know that's when I'm really struggling. Just a little bit more to get to the top of this hill and then I can recover on the downhill and then hopefully just empty the tank on the last flat bit. I'm really trying to keep my cadence high here, about 100 RPM. I know if I let myself get bogged down, I'll lose my speed and then I'll have to work really hard to get it back up again. So just getting to the point here where the gradient starts to flatten. So I'm trying to keep my speed up here because there's a little turn coming and I want to make sure I have a bit of a slingshot effect when I start going down the hill. So I just want to make sure I get this right because there's lots of time to be gained or lost here. My bike handling isn't really the best, so I really don't want to fall off. So I tend to use quite a lot of speed in the corners. So I'm just trying to make sure I can make the line through the corner as shallow as possible. So taking it wide and then cutting back to the inside. And this is the bit where it's really fast downhill. You can see my arms shaking through all the bumps. And at the bottom of this hill, there's another left-hander. I'm going about 30 kilometers an hour here, but I don't have the confidence in the bike or in myself really, so I really scrub a lot of speed off there, down to about 20 kilometers an hour. If I were more confident, I would have been able to save so much time there. All right, getting out the saddle here just for a quick bit, just to get the power back in and the speed back up. So really now it is just a flat sprint to the line on this sort of gravel road thing. There's lots and lots of bumps, but it is pretty hard to keep the power down and to keep it smooth. Keeping it about 30 kilometers an hour, it's still a slight downhill gradient here, but you can't really feel it. It essentially is 0, but there's so many bumps here. My heart rate is off the charts, 184. That is ridiculously high. I think the max I've ever seen it was about 188, so it shows I'm really pushing myself to the limits here. I am on the edge, just making sure I keep the power down to the end. I've got about 20 seconds, I think. The time I was trying to beat was 3:09, so I have about 10 seconds actually, just trying to squeeze every last little bit out here. It's really difficult when you're on the edge. Heart rate 186, definitely not going to make it actually. The clock is just ticking over here and I realise on the Garmin that there's no way for me to get to the end in time, so I just coast to the end. I was quite disappointed with that. I feel like I had that in the bag until I took that last corner really slow, so yeah, that was a bit of a shame. Alright, official Strava time was 3:19, which was 2 seconds slower than my PR, so it's a bit of a shame that I missed that one. Alright, straight into the next section. Alright, so the next section is only 400 meters up the road, so I've had pretty much no recovery. I've ridden that 400 meters as slow as humanly possible, but I still feel pretty dead. So this next section is a little bit longer, about 2.5 kilometers. My time is 5:29, but I am well behind for this one. I'm in 34th place, so it just starts when we cross that gate up ahead. I'm not feeling particularly confident for this one. My legs are completely done from the previous two efforts. But I try to put some energy in just for the start of the segment here. I really should have carried a lot more speed in. The hill is pretty intense, it's about 8% at the moment. You should really carry some speed into this so you at least have some momentum. I made the mistake of starting the hill slowly, so I had to build up my speed on the gradient, which is not a very smart thing to do. Anyway, I'm already only about 15 seconds into this segment and I can just feel my legs don't really have much else to give. I'm not feeling very good about this one, so I actually decided to call this one off. I know straight away that I'm not going to beat my PR, so there's no point wasting the effort. Alright, let's skip forward to the next one. Alright, so I've had a nice long break. The next section was about 5 kilometers up the road. So this next one is pretty short. It's just over 1 kilometers long and my time is 3 minutes. I'm currently sitting in second position. The guy ahead of me has a ridiculous time of 2 minutes and 26. I know that I'm probably not going to beat that. So if the goal for this one is just to beat my PR. So the start of this one is at the bottom of a hill. I'm on this road here and I need to turn right at the bottom of the hill to get into the section. So it's quite a tricky one because I want to make sure I'm carrying as much speed as possible onto the rough stuff. So I'm heading down the hill now and you can't really see it very well on the camera, but I'm going to be glancing towards the left because the tarmac road turns left and the gravel road turns right. So I want to make sure there's no cars coming from the left so I can cut across the road onto the right safely. So yeah, just going down the hill now, picking up some speed. So I'm glancing through these trees right now just to make sure it's safe, and you can just about see the start of the section there at the end of the road. So just approaching the corner here, 38 kilometers an hour, not too fast. I want to maintain as much of that speed as possible. So just cutting across here, making sure there's no cars, and this is it, the beginning of the section, and straight onto the bumps. This is a pretty hard section because it's just so difficult to choose the correct line. You can take the left-hand side lane, and that's quite bumpy and quite grassy, but I decided to stick to the right-hand lane, which is pretty similar, but it's closer to the field, so you don't really know if the traction will be there. This is definitely the bumpiest section I've been on so far. You've got to make sure you're really on top of the bike. It's really hard because if you try and sit down and you hit a bump, you're just going to be thrown up and it's really going to hurt you in the nether regions. So yeah, you can see how long the grass is here, so the line choice is very important. 30 seconds in now and my heart rate is already shot up, 176, which is pretty damn high for me. Alright, so trying to stick to this main section here. I'm doing quite well at the moment, I think. Managed to maintain most of the speed, still going around 28 kilometers an hour. It's a slight downhill still, so it's pretty good. Also for this section, I actually have a tailwind for once. So all the things have gone in my favor today to make for hopefully a good run. So almost at the bottom of the slight hill here. Once I reach the bottom, there's a right hand corner and it goes onto a smoother road, and then there's a final corner leading to the last 50 or so meters, which is just up quite a steep little bit of hill. Right, so managing to keep speed up here. I've shifted from the right hand side of the road to the left hand side. This path here wasn't working out very well, so I shift back here, and yeah, you don't really know which line's going to be the best. It sort of depends on what the farmer's been doing. You can see him on the right hand side and he's doing some ploughing, which is quite interesting. Right, this is the corner here, so I've got to make sure I manage to keep my speed up. I managed to scrub a lot off. I tried to cut the corner, but there's so many bumps and I lose so much momentum there. Alright, this is the slightly smoother bit. Coming to the end, I'm just trying to get the power back on because I lost so much speed in that corner. I'm managing to get it back up, 22 kilometers an hour. My heart rate is almost at 180, so it's right on the edge again. Got the farmer on the right hand side here, just trying to overtake him. This road is quite smooth compared to the one before, so it's quite good for maintaining the speed. It's a slight uphill here. You can't really see it that much, but you can definitely feel it. I've got about 10 seconds left to beat the guy in first, so I think that might be out of reach, but I'm definitely on course for a PR here. So this is where the left-hand turn is, so I'm just shifting to the right-hand side of the road to smoothen out the angle. Then I just need to cut across here, trying to maintain as much speed as possible. And now the final push to the line is just up this little sharp, steep bit, a lot steeper than it looks on the camera actually, maybe 4 5% perhaps. But yeah, I'm just trying to absolutely leave everything on the line here, and coming across the line for a time off. Let's see.
Come on.
2 minutes 45, so I managed to shave off 15 seconds on this really short section, so that was definitely a very good run in my eyes. Alright, that's it for today. If you want to see me take this bike to a mountain bike park, be sure to watch this video. If you want to see me riding a really old road bike from about 2010, be sure to check this video out. Alright, thanks for watching. If you liked it, be sure to hit the thumbs up button and subscribe if you want to see more videos. Alright, I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.